What's going on, movie lovers? It's that time again. Suit and tie movie guy Nick Bella, and I'm going to be reviewing 2019's Crawl. Now, Crawl is directed by Alexander Tony. Tony! Did I say that right? I didn't. Well, how do you say it? What do you mean you don't? What, do you want to do this? What do you mean you do? You think you could do it better than me? Oh, you do. You know what? Not everyone can put on a suit and a nice watch and do these. Oh, everyone can? Go get me a Yoo-hoo. I still haven't had my Yoo-hoo. Let me get back to. Can I please get back to the review? Thank you. So, if you guys haven't seen this movie yet and you plan on seeing it, I would turn this off now and come back after you've seen the movie because it's going to be filled with spoilers. So, without any further ado, Suit and Tie movie guy Nick, not Nikki Bella's review 2019 Crawl. So honestly, guys, growing up, I was a real big fan of, kind of dumb monster movies. I really liked Lake Placid, Deep Blue Sea, just movies where it kind of had to dumb myself down and just enjoy it, not expect a masterpiece. And I really didn't go into Crawl with really high expectations, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. So Crawl stars Kaya Scodelario. I'm not really good with names, guys. I'm sorry. But also Barry Pepper. You may have seen those two together in the two Maze Runner movies, 2015 and 2018. So Haley is a University of Florida student, and she is on the swim team. And right off the bat, we see a lot of flashbacks, dialogue, foreshadowing of what's going to happen to see the kind of relationship her and her father, Dave, have. So she gets a call from her sister Beth, and her sister basically says, I can't get a hold of Dad. There's a Category 5 hurricane coming. What are we going to do? So Haley decides that she's going to drive down to her dad's house and make sure he's okay. So she gets down there, and she ends up getting stopped by some police officers at an evacuation checkpoint. They say she can't go check on him. So she asks them if they can do that after the evacuation happens, and she ends up giving them the slip, and she couldn't find him at the condo that he had that he had bought after the divorce, but she was able to find his truck at their old childhood home. She went inside, she sees the dog, Sugar, and of course there's an animal that we have to worry about more than the humans in a movie like this, but the dog's fine, but she can't find her dad anywhere. So she ends up checking the crawl space, hence the name Crawl. Now, anyone that doesn't live in Florida, there's really not many basements here, and a lot of people had a problem with this because, when they see this, they think basement, and because the movie's called Crawl, it explains that that's actually a crawl space. Now, the house that I had in Florida had a huge crawl space, so for me, this wasn't out of the realm of possibility, and even though it was a little bit bigger for the sake of the movie, I didn't find it implausible. So that didn't bother me at all. So she goes down and she ends up finding her dad unconscious. He's got bite wounds on his shoulder, and she ends up getting attacked by a very large alligator. She escapes because there is a setup to where there are pipes running throughout the crawl space, and the gator can't get over the pipes. So she ends up being able to rouse her dad, who explains what happens. Explained what happened and how the alligator attacked him. So they start trying to formulate a plan. There's a few different ways to get out of the crawl space. Where she came in, as well as an access in the kitchen, and a storm drain pipe. So she dropped her phone initially running from the alligator. So she grabs a flashlight that is activated by a crank, and she tries to sneak over to her phone and ends up getting attacked. The gator grabs her leg. She gets separated from her dad, and she ends up having to tie a tourniquet, which you always get a tourniquet scene in movies like this. But her phone gets smashed in the process. So now they're left without a phone, and the gator's blocking the exit. So she's looking for different ways to try to get out. She ends up getting over to the other exit. It leads up into the kitchen, but unfortunately it's blocked by a large piece of furniture. So running out of options, she looks out the window and she sees three looters, because anyone that has been in Florida during a hurricane knows that there are scumbag, horrible, disgusting looters. If you are a looter, stop doing it. You're a terrible person, and nobody likes you. Go get a real job. Anyway, so she tries to get the attention of the looters, and they end up getting attacked and killed individually by the gators. There's a lot of suspense, a lot of jumps in this movie, and a lot of really, really cool deaths. So the two officers end up going to the house as promised to check on the dad. They come up in a boat, and the officer that she knows really well goes into the house while the other officer stays out in the boat. Now, he ends up getting some debris in the propeller, so he jumps into the water to try to clear that and ends up getting attacked and killed by one of the gators. One of my biggest issues these days with films, and particularly trailers, is the studio has no faith in their films these days. They're constantly giving away scenes that really should have been reserved for the theater, and this movie was definitely not an exception. Now, they may not show some of the big scenes, but they really have a tendency to take away jump scares from the audience. And there's a scene where the officer is looking down the entry to the crawl space, and he's getting warned, and the gator comes up and snatches him. Now, this scene is much, much longer than we see in the theater, but it really took away a big, pivotal, oh my gosh moment, and I don't like when they do that, and it needs to stop, because they're giving away pivotal parts of the movie. But that was one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie. It was very graphic. It was very intense, seeing this guy begging for his life. And in my opinion, in movies like this, death should not be funny. I mean, you want to feel for these characters, and I feel like they did a really, really good job. So throughout the attack, Dave ends up killing one of the alligators, and as the water is filling the crawl space and they're realizing that they need to get out, and they need to get out now, even though Dave advises against it, Haley decides to very slowly, very quietly make her way to the storm drain. Again, we get some more suspense, and she ends up finding that the alligators have a nest there. And anyone that knows anything about gators knows that a lot of times when alligators or crocodiles kill something, they don't necessarily eat it right away. They'll bring it and bury it in the mud and the sticks underwater to eat later. So the gator had ended up bringing the police officer over to the nest, and she finds eggs, and she ends up getting the gun from the police officer's waist and ends up killing the alligator. So she ends up going down the storm drain, and at one point has to go under the water and sees an alligator swim by. And this is another one of my favorite parts of the movie. Visually, it's amazing because we see this Category 5 storm up top. You know, there's rain, there's wind, there's lightning, but underneath the water, it's so calm and so serene and just beautiful. But we get a nice little chase where she ends up getting back up top, and the crawl space is filled entirely with water, and we see her father inhale the water and go unconscious. So she takes a crowbar and ends up prying open the hardwood to drag him out, give CPR, and resuscitate him. And in movies like this, you know, we get a lot of pep talks, especially with the father-daughter duo, you know, flashbacks from the past. This is where a lot of them start being incorporated. So they realize that the levees that are holding back a lot of the water are going to break anytime and flood everything in that area. So they need to get to the looter's boat that we saw earlier. Now, in this scene, we see that they're talking about how gators don't have great eyesight, and with all the rain and all the side noise going on, if they move slowly and quietly through the water, they're not going to be attacked because the gators won't know they're there. And I don't know about that, but you know, at least they tried to make it realistic. So she ends up, of course she's a swimmer. She ends up needing to swim as fast as she can to the boat because, of course, the eye of the hurricane comes and everything clears up and all the background noise is gone. So as they get into the boat, the levee breaks and water comes rushing in, and they end up getting separated back inside their house. We get a really intense moment where they're trying to save the dog, and he saves the dog. Everyone's so happy, but he sees some flares. Oh my gosh, flares, we're going to use these. We're going to definitely get saved now. Reaches over to grab him, and the gator clamps down on his arm. And the one thing that I was really waiting for throughout this whole movie, and I finally got it. I almost jumped up in the theater excited. Was a death roll. And if you guys haven't seen an alligator or crocodile death roll, YouTube it. It's intense. So his arm ends up getting torn off. They end up getting up into the attic and eventually onto the roof. They get attacked yet again, but she ends up killing the alligator with a flare. And once they reach the roof, they get attacked one more time, but the rushing floodwater ends up dragging the alligator away. We see that the father is potentially mortally injured. He's got the shoulder wounds, his arm's gone. I believe there might have been some paralysis there, but the helicopter is coming to rescue them because she had found a radio in the kitchen, so she radioed for help, and she's waving the flare in the air. The dog, the dad, the daughter, they all survive as far as we know, and that brings an end to the movie Crawl. As far as the positives go, I mean, I gotta say, I really, really enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought. Like I said, I didn't expect it to be a masterpiece or an Oscar winner, but the acting between those two was very good. I truly believed that they were terrified. I believed that they were in desperate situations. I believed their fear. I believed their sadness. And overall, I thought the acting was very, very good. The CGI was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. For a $13.5 million budget, the gators looked extremely realistic. Based on the trailers that I saw, it didn't look like it was going to be that great. And although there were a couple shots that were less than stellar, overall the CGI was really good. I mean, the movie kept you on the edge of your seat. There was a lot of jump scares. There was a lot of suspense. And I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Negatives, I mean, I'm someone that loves animals, loves snakes, loves reptiles, loves gators and crocodiles. So I know, being from Florida, that gators are nowhere near that aggressive. They need to be respected, and they obviously can kill people, but it was a little bit of an eye roller, some of these scenes. As far as the size of the gators go, I mean, pretty much within realistic lengths and size. I mean, they can get pretty big, but the odds of finding 10 gators all 13 feet long are a little bit of a stretch. You're going to get more in that 7 to 8 range, but I wasn't expecting a documentary, and the fact that they kept them relatively realistic was enough for me. Towards the end, it kind of dragged on a little bit, just the torture that they had to go through, but I felt like it ended right when it needed to. Overall, guys, I definitely recommend the movie, especially if you like movies like that. I mean, don't go in expecting a masterpiece. Just go in expecting fun, suspenseful action, and I think you'll be thoroughly enjoyed. So as far as a rating goes, guys, I would definitely give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. If you go into it expecting a masterpiece Oscar winner, you might be disappointed. But if you go in just expecting suspenseful, edge-of-your-seat fun, I think you'll really enjoy it. I am very glad that I went and saw it in theaters. I'll definitely watch it again, and I definitely recommend it to everyone. So, as always, guys, if you like what you see, comment, subscribe, share, hit the little bell. You'll get notified every time I do a new video. This is Suit and Tie movie guy Nick, not Nikki Bella, saying, "Where is my Yoo-hoo, Tony?" Guy, this is the second time. I mean, every time I come here, I ask for a Yoo-hoo and you don't bring me one. I mean, I sit here, I do these reviews, I'm getting viewers, people like me, but no, you can't even bring me a stinking Yoo-hoo. I don't even know what I gotta do to come in here and...
My Yoo-hoo.